Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
We're back.
I hope everybody is doing well out there.
Yeah, I hope you guys are having a great day. We're doing pretty good today.
We are. It's been interesting times for us. We've been really on the go so much, and we've had like little to no cell reception and no internet for the better part of it. We might squeak in a half hour here and there. But at the same time, it's been very, very peaceful. That is for sure. And to get away from society is really nice sometimes and just, reconnect with nature.
And that's really important. I don't think we were made to be around all this EMF and computer equipment and technology, stuff like that. I think it really goes against the grain of our energy.
And so we've met some really, really interesting people that are completely awake to everything that's going on and have, basically left places like LA and the big cities and are coming out to the middle of nowhere for these times to, well, for different things, partly to get ready for everything that's going on, partly just to reconnect with Mother Nature and to be in a place where you could actually have a little bit of a community vibe, which is really strong in the areas that we've been going through.
It is, and it's really nice to feel these people, be able to trust them and feel their intentions. It's comforting.
It is, and we've been blessed to talk to people of various indigenous traditions and get their perspective as well. And it's just fascinating, and it's great always to experience new minds, especially awakened minds that really understand the big picture. Which I guess it depends on where you're at, because in a lot of places, if you're just focused on the rat race, then you're kind of oblivious to everything else because all you're doing is just trying to pay all the bills and keep things going, keep up with the Joneses, all that.
Absolutely. There's so many neat toys and trinkets and things to look out to look at in the stores that just keeps your mind somewhere else other than going in and focusing on what's truly important.
Sharing time around campfires if you're allowed to have a campfire. Even if you're not, you just sit out and look at the stars and be unplugged. It's amazing what can happen when people are unplugged and they're just actually conversing. Nice. We've lost so much of our sense of community because of the technology and because of the system around us. So we're looking at a map from the USGS, and we see 64 of the 344 quakes that the USGS is listing in the last 24 hours happened around Yellowstone. So Yellowstone, obviously, when you have activity, everybody's eyes go straight to it for those that follow these things.
Yeah, it's like a giant sleeping ape. You definitely want to keep an eye on it if it hiccups.
Yeah, at the same time, asking the galactics and going within, we don't really feel there's going to be a mega eruption at Yellowstone in the foreseeable future.
When I ask, they show me this in a distance, any earth changes in a distance. And since there's really no time, to me, that's their way of helping me interpret that's way out there.
Yeah, so while we're always going to watch it, and, of course, you want to take it seriously because it is a super volcano that can change everybody's life in an instant. At the same time, we are seeing interesting activity there, but doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a mega eruption. And when we look, we see quite a bit of activity going up between Portland and Seattle. I've brought it up before, too, that I noticed a long time ago, this was like 20 years ago in my research, that at times when there was great civil unrest, we would have, a lot of times, big natural disasters around those areas because our consciousness affects more than the masses know. Maybe you guys know because, you're aware and you're awake. But the masses don't realize that the negative energies or the positive energies can affect the environment that we're in because we're all part of a larger organism. Just as you have, billions of cells in your body and you have all sorts of bacteria and other things living in you because you are a universe unto yourself. And your moods affect them. And same thing with us in affecting the earth and the Earth affecting us. It's should be a symbiotic relationship. Unfortunately, mankind, with the system that's in place, has been much more like a virus, a nasty virus.
Yeah, they've definitely made it so that things are not very congruent, or we're not very congruent with our own surroundings, with all of these, they fill us full of, I mean, even when you put makeup on, just makeup, look at all that stuff that's in that makeup, look at in the ingredients, you put it on your skin, and that has to be absorbed through your liver. And they give us tons of that stuff, these pretty lotions. I mean, they feed us full of it.
So we see the usual swarming going on still over here in Nevada, west of Tonopah, and down in Ridgecrest, as well as all on the San Andreas and down into the San Jacinto. The KP index is relatively quiet right now, and same thing with the solar wind, and there's nothing really that would be affecting us so much right now, except for the fact that, as we've said many times, the magnetosphere is in decline in these times. So here we see a 5.2 over in Samoa. So at the moment, nothing huge there, but there are huge things going on. The wildfires are incredible. And so this is a tweet from Bernie Sanders saying the second, third, and fourth largest wildfires in California's history continue to rage. The sky on the West Coast turned red and orange. Please don't tell me the Green New Deal is radical. What's radical is having a president in office who rejects science and calls climate change a hoax. So, again, the left and the right have been constructed in such a way as that there's BS and truth on both sides, and all it gets us doing is going around in circles. We're a dog chasing our tail. That's what these politicians are. They're just like a dog chasing their tail, not getting anywhere. So the left always blaming the right always blaming the left. We had this discussion with a family member, EA family member, yesterday, just wanting to point out, but this person's the worst of all. It's like as soon as we start to think, that these guys are somewhat better than others, etc., then we're starting to buy into the matrix. We're buying into the paradigm. And this left-right dichotomy has been all about division. And until we recognize that, we're just going to be part of the program. We're going to be part of the play, the grand charade that's going on. Because in reality, there's controllers controlling both sides. And yes, there are bad guys in both sides. And when you get to the top, maybe some of these politicians actually really know what's going on. Though I think there's a lot that really are just blind, or they don't want to see, that cognitive dissonance where they're like, and they start to believe their spiels and the party line, which is always about blaming the other party. The entire system needs to change. They're always talking Band-Aids. When you have a gaping wound that's gushing, tons of blood all over the place, and they're arguing about which little Band-Aid is better, where the whole system needs to go.
Yeah, I think that's a really good analogy. Just death by 1,000 cuts, and you're arguing about which Band-Aid covers it better. That's kind of how it is.
And as we go down, we see it's all political criticism. Meanwhile, people are losing their homes, they're losing their lives, they're losing everything. CNN, saying President Trump has yet to offer any public statement of support amidst historic wildfires. And then, the bigger picture is there's a ENDA going on, a major one. And this is just a piece of it. As we see the wildfires in California, Oregon, and Washington State have killed 7 people, with fears more have died in towns completely destroyed. The August complex is now the biggest wildfire in California's recorded history, state officials say. The fire was sparked last month and has consumed more than 471,000 acres. There's over 2.5 million acres burned. I mean, the records have been just completely shattered. And meanwhile, oh gosh, what was that famous UFO incident? Fire in the sky, Travis Walton. Fire in the sky, if you guys haven't seen that. Interesting how these beams of light tend to fall from the sky. Remember, I was showing you guys 1871. 1871. People saw a UFO, a classic flying saucer in the sky, shooting beams of light down right when the Great Chicago Fire was going on. Had a fantastic discussion this morning over breakfast with a gentleman that was accepted to Mensa. What's his conclusions? Well, ETs. Yeah. You know, it's all ETs. This is a brilliant guy. I mean, he's got an IQ that probably less than maybe half of 1% or less than that. 1/10 of 1% of the people on the planet have. And that's his conclusion. He thinks it's very, very obvious. You know, and it is, I think. It's just a matter of looking at all the pieces and then discussing with a gentleman of the Navajo tradition. And, you know, they know, just like when we had the discussions with people over in Cherokee, of course, they know about the extraterrestrials, interdimensionals, and they control the system here on this planet. So, you know, when people talk about fake alien invasion, they've been here the whole time. You know, they've been here the whole time. There's never been a time when they left. Unfortunately, the good guys haven't been here. It's the bad ones. So, and then if you are the victor, right, you write the history. And that's exactly what's going on. They've rewritten the history.
Yeah, and that's, you know, I don't want to upset people, but if you look into the Bible, you know, and you say history was written by the victors, don't you think that's going to be kind of like a control mechanism all throughout?
Well, that gets into why there's only 4 redacted Gospels, you know, where there was over 200 of them. So these fires are ongoing, and what we've gotten from the galactics is that some are actually being caused by what we've been talking about, those lights from the sky. Some are actually being caused by meteorites coming down.
Yeah, small ones are causing them. So they're taking something that's natural and augmenting it and making it seem really bad.
And obviously with fires of this scope, firefighters are going to be stretched really thin. And the other thing I feel, and I've gotten, is that this is a softening up tactic. Because of everything that's going on. And we're going to do another video later going into some of the channeled stuff that Cindy's got in the last few days, which we haven't been able to share with you guys. But it ties into this. So, I mean, entire towns just gone. Just gone. So, again, the numbers are not what they are saying. It's obviously much higher. Tropical storm Paulette is forecast to become a hurricane and will be near Bermuda next week. Tropical storm force winds are most likely to first reach the island early Monday. You know, if you look at it, the NOAA is actually tracking 7 systems in the Atlantic right now. 7 systems. And while we haven't had, you know, anything like, you know, we've had in, say, 2017 with 3 major impacts, you know, there's still so much time in this hurricane season. The contrast, man, we had just incredible change in the weather. And, you know, this is what this is looking at. This is over an electroverse. These are all records falling. Look at all those record cold temperatures that came down. And, you know, like in Colorado, it's just felt like all of a sudden you're in December, like, boom, you know, just the way the winds came in, we did get some rain, some areas got some snow, just intense change in a 24-hour period. And this will obviously be something that we'll see more and more often. You know, a 60-degree drop in 24 hours is pretty intense. You know, where you go from your sweating in the low 90s and all of a sudden it's around freezing. So, you know, you name it. So many records fell. Some of the greatest snow totals were recorded in Wyoming, 17 inches just south of Casper. And not just there, Cheyenne tied its earliest measurable snow with 1.1 inches. And Rapid City, South Dakota recorded 1 inch on the 7th, breaking its previous record early snow by 4 days. The winter is probably going to be intense. The thing is, it's what we had said. Whatever happened to spring and fall? Because you just go from summer kind of directly into winter. And so, all these records, 2 inches of snow, Fort Collins, Colorado. That broke the record again by 4 days. Pueblo, Colorado broke its record earliest snowfall back to 1898. So all over the place, Las Vegas, New Mexico, over in Kansas as well. It's part of the changing times that we have. Great changes going on. And this article is getting into more than one scientist that is talking about the little ice age that's coming. So it's going to get colder. After we've said this a million times over the last 3.5 years, after every period of natural warming, there's rapid cooling. It's just like the planet running a temperature.
Yeah, where it actually, when people run a temperature, they're trying to kick a parasite out of you or something that doesn't go along with you. So, it could be the beginnings of that, maybe.
Yeah, well, and again, this whole civilization that we are living in pays attention only with lip service to the real problems of the world. Meanwhile, spending uncountable money on death and destruction. And meanwhile, we're heading towards global famine, and still the record military spending. Put your money where your mouth is, and let's see you actually work for the people and the betterment of the planet, because that's not happening. If you look close, that is not happening. All that we have is just part of a bigger agenda. And we could look back and look into the Sumerian writings and know it's not just Zechariah Sitchin. There's countless different people that have translated these writings. And, we see, and I asked, again, the gentleman this morning, the Mensa gentleman, and his conclusion was aliens. And then he just said, yeah, I think that you have to agree. It's as if we have been viewed and used as a slave race for them. And again, as cattle, and we're driving by and we see some free-range cattle, and they're all tagged. They have basically tags in their ears. And if you look at the book of Revelation, there's those that will have the mark of the beast on their foreheads, but then the other ones that are saved, quote unquote, that will be there with God and his Lamb also have a mark on their forehead. Again, it's very much a possessiveness, whereas the divine spark of God lies within every single one of us. Every single one of us. And it's time for us to claim our freedom and to stand up for that and get our butts out of the system.
It is, doing the very best you can with what you've got is really important right now. Thinking about different scenarios, just sort of preparing yourself that things are going to change. That's important right now.
And so they're looking for it to be very, very similar to the Maunder minimum, I should say. And they're expecting that to be like around 2040 to 2050 will be basically in the beginning of a little ice age. And, by far, the cooling of the planet is worse than the heating of the planet, as it's going to even make it tougher, as you see desperate scenes during the Maunder minimum, which was 1645 to 1715. It's going to make it even tougher to grow food, but we could do it. If they took the money that they spent, almost $1 trillion in this country on the military, take half of that, put $500 billion into making massive greenhouses, dig down into the ground 5 or 6 feet, utilize technology, desalinate water. We could have plenty of food. They just don't have the will to do it. It's not part of their picture. It's not part of their plan.
No, they don't want to. It's not part of their agenda, because their agenda is all about control. And how do you control people is the best way, I feel, is through food.
Exactly. And so, what leads to is global famines, and then, of course, pestilence as well. So, my friends, thank you so much for your support on Patreon and Ko-Fi. As always, we cannot do it without you. Be safe, stay prepared. God bless, and namaste.
Namaste.